Good evening and welcome to the June 12th meeting of Teaching, Learning, and Student Supports. We have several items on our agenda tonight, including a presentation that we will begin with, and I know we are just waiting to make sure we have everyone dialed in. Andrew, can you just confirm that?
Yeah, I can't promote Sue, but she is able to talk.
Okay, so she is on here. She'd be able to talk for everything. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. So I will. Oh, sorry. I will ask Dr. Field to call the roll, please.
Member Kamara,
Here.
Vice Chair Mailman,
Here.
and Chair McCullough.
Here. So this evening, the first item that we are going to take on the agenda is C&P 3-3.1, which was a petition to consider a presentation on the results of a survey about students' experience with Holocaust and anti-Semitism education as part of a social justice advocacy fellowship with the Union for Reform Judaism, as presented by South High Community Junior, Anya Geist. So welcome, Anya. We're happy to have you tonight. And Anya has a presentation that she is going to share with us. So without further ado, you are welcome to share your screen and your slides and present.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I will share my screen. So my survey was, as Chairman McCullough stated, about students' experience with Holocaust and anti-Semitism education in the Worcester Public Schools. And during February, it was distributed to students at South, and I received over 500 responses over a 2-week period, the responses of which I would like to share and discuss now. While the majority of students reported receiving Holocaust education in the Worcester Public Schools, an alarming 16% reported that they definitely had not. Additionally, 36% of students said they had learned about the Holocaust in a few grades, which left more than 50% of respondents saying they had learned about the Holocaust in one or no grades or else couldn't remember. When asked about anti-Semitism education in the WPS, over half of students hadn't had or couldn't remember having any education about anti-Semitism. Students were also asked about various topics related to the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, the data for which are not depicted in this presentation. When asked about education about Holocaust denial, for instance, over 40% of respondents said they had never learned about it. When asked about modern-day anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic stereotypes, respectively, as part of classroom discussions, more than half of respondents reported never learning about them. In the comments on this section, one student, quote unquote, was not sure what the question was asking when it referred to Holocaust denial, and another was, quote unquote, not very familiar with anti-Semitism. The survey concluded with 3 questions. The first asked students if their WPS education made them feel knowledgeable about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism. Fewer than 13% of students said yes, as seen here. However, more than 3/4 of students wished they had learned more about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, and 90% agreed those topics were important to learn about. In the general comments section after the questions on the survey, some students expressed a wish to learn about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism in school, and others indicated they had learned more about these topics from their own interest than from school. One comment involved an anti-Semitic stereotype, claiming that Jews own most of the property in the US, and sample comments can be seen on the slide here. The data demonstrates that while students may have reported learning about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, this information did not have much of an impact on them, and they received minimal education about anti-Semitism in general. This affects students in many ways. When students do not have a solid understanding of history, they do not know how to act in their own lives so as not to repeat the mistakes of previous generations. Additionally, these are issues that are still relevant today. Anti-Semitism continues to harm people every day, and the Holocaust is often diminished and exploited by anti-Semites who aim to discredit the suffering of Jews. For example, Holocaust denial is a harmful form of disinformation, resting at the core of many anti-Semitic ideologies. It is an important concept for students to be aware of, so they know it is false, and so they know how to disprove it when they encounter it. Issues such as Holocaust denial do not disappear with time, and it is important to have educated students ready to combat them. Furthermore, knowledge about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism can make students more compassionate people. Realizing the harm of anti-Semitism and discrimination and how these ideas can lead to murder and genocide can make students understand better how to treat people in their own lives. They may better appreciate why they shouldn't judge others or allow their impressions of people to be shaped by prejudice and hatred. I believe stronger Holocaust and anti-Semitism education is needed in Worcester. Though my data was collected at only one school, I think the information could be generalized to apply to the district at large. As such, I believe that introducing a 10-week class in Worcester high schools about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism would be greatly beneficial to students. In this class, I would recommend synthesizing information from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum and other reputable sources with movies and books, including Night by Elie Wiesel, The Boy on the Wooden Box by Leon Layson, and Mouse by Art Spiegelman, none of which I have personally ever read in school. Furthermore, I believe that listening to the testimonies of Holocaust survivors is incredibly important because it allows students to understand the events of the Holocaust as they happened to real people. In all, the results from the survey I conducted were disappointing, and I believe there is a need to improve Holocaust and anti-Semitism education in the Worcester Public Schools, specifically through a class that teaches about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anya. That was a wonderful presentation, and I really commend you for the work that you did on this. And I also find it very impressive that you were able to get so many students at your school to respond within such a short period of time, because I know that can be challenging in my own line of work to get people to respond to surveys. So very impressive work and details. And certainly we know how important it is to learn about the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, and that learning about that helps us prevent future things in history as well, and how it relates to other aspects throughout history. My recommendation is that this goes to administration and the Office of Curriculum, but I'm going to ask my colleagues, Member Mailman and Member Kamara, if they have any comments on this first.
I would like to thank the student for the presentation. So I'm in the car, so it's a little hard to hear names and everything, but I guess I'm unclear why we are now having to send this. I mean, didn't we get this? This data came to us beforehand. So
we had to set a general meeting, and then it was sent here for our recommendation.
Okay. So the meeting you came to the student was when? The school committee meeting?
Yes, it was a full committee meeting.
And when was that date?
The petition was filed in March, so it was sometime between March and now. Is that correct, Anya? Yes, she's shaking her head. Yes, Member Mailman.
Okay. And can administration offer any kind of thought process to us right now?
Yes, Dr. Ganyas is going to respond to that. And then
Thank
Member
you.
Kamara, absolutely. I see your hand too, so definitely.
Thank you. And through the chair, I wanted to just share that the Holocaust is mentioned in the Massachusetts history standards in both the world history course and in the US history course. So that is the Holocaust is part of the standards and is something that our teachers should all be teaching. I also wanted to share that we are in the process of planning training for our teachers for the new Genocide Act that has been signed into law. It was signed into law in December 2021. So we are in the process now of training our teachers. There is a training at the end of this school year so that the teachers can also continue in that instruction for their students.
Member Mailman, and then Member Kamara.
Just a final comment, then when would we expect to see some kind of further response from administration?
Dr. Ganyas.
We're happy to specifically outline where in the frameworks the Holocaust is mentioned. I can absolutely do that and highlight that for you. And we can also share how we are training our teachers on the required Genocide Act, and that instruction should be in our schools in the fall. So we can share that information about the upcoming training and the specific areas in the frameworks that the Holocaust is specifically mentioned.
I promised my last comment, so I guess it seems to me, just based on the survey, that we haven't really been getting this done as maybe we should have been getting it done already. So I'd like to see one other piece, and that would be the measurement of that we actually did put this in place. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you very much, Member Mailman. Member Kamara?
Thank you to the chair. And I also want to say thanks to Anya, that was a wonderful presentation with regards to even like the way how you got to the data and your presentation of that data. I think these are great skills for all students graduating public schools to have. So I'm excited that for your content and eye on data. So I do want to also aim, and I want to say that this now begs the question of history, important history, genocides, and I think that was one of my items, I believe, to this. Genocides, not just, this genocide, but all genocides. And I wonder, and I believe that was what, Mrs. Gagnez talked about with regards to the broader perspective of genocides. Because one of the things that I wanted to share, because I remember taking, learning about Holocaust and all of that, even meeting a Holocaust survivor when I was in high school at South High. So it's pretty interesting to kind of hear, the responses from students, particularly, so I'm questioning a lot of things here with regards to overall, like what's going on, and I don't want to say South, but most of the data comes from South. So I think my only item that I want to also share here is regarding genocides, because I remember this meeting and I remember Mrs. Gagnez talking about that the new genocide training is going to encompass a variety of genocides, right, including the Holocaust. So that's really great to hear that there'll be new training based on a new law that has been passed. And then, for this fall, so that, educators will continue, yes, this is very tricky for me. It's very tricky for me because I remember, hearing about these things in schools, and now it's like a whole new generation and things have changed. So I'm just a little bit perplexed about where is what's going on here to be able to make a better decision or even add more to this. But I thank you to the administration for sharing this, and I thank you to the student for sharing this as well, because just student perspectives are always great to listen to.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you. So the motion would be to send this to administration and OCPL, Office of Curriculum and Professional Learning, and that once the training has occurred for genocide and implemented in school, that the full committee does get information back on that, and ensuring that while we know that the Holocaust is a line item in the frameworks, that it is actually occurring as a lesson in all of our high schools as we move forward, and get that information back as well to the full committee. And then that would be the motion to file it from here, but to forward it to administration. So could I get a roll call, please, Dr. Friel?
Member Kamara?
Member
Molly, clarification. If we're filing it today, we're not going to get a data back on the train, how we know we actually implemented the training, correct?
We're asking that the request is that it's the full, that information is provided to the full committee come the fall, once the training has occurred and we've begun to implement that. So that's the request there.
I guess I'm not being clear then. My item was really asking administration how they're going to measure that this training actually occurred. That the kids, that we're actually doing the work. So the teachers get trained. We say this is what we're going to do. How are we going to measure that we're actually doing it?
Okay, so I'll pause for a moment.
That's the additional item I'd add to your thing.
Okay,
what is
sure.
going to be thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So then so the motion would include Member Mailman's request of providing that data, how we're measuring that this is occurring, and getting that back to the full committee for the total package. Member Kamara?
Thank you.
Yeah, so if I'm clear to the chair, so Sue's question is about, is it measure that the training happened? So just the measure of the training, or am I also hearing training, but then also how educators were able to include it? So there's two different things that are separate.
So I think to Member Kamara, to your point, to answer that, and Member Mailman, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's for both. So we want to ensure that the training has occurred, but we also want to make sure that the implementation is occurring in the schools and get that feedback to the full committee, now knowing that we are now incorporating also not only the standards that include the Holocaust, but the new state requirement of genocide and learning about all the different genocides. So we really want to ensure that all of that is occurring. So the motion would be that this goes to administration and that the full committee is provided with that information. And then certainly if there are further things that we need to do, we can do an item to TLSS, but knowing that it is part of the curriculum and that we want to ensure that that happens, that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
and,
Dr. Yeah, Member Kamara?
Yeah, so to the chair. So so because sometimes when we do stuff like this, I remember that we have like multiple month follow-up. So I don't know if this works for the same situation here, or is just where that we once we have that feedback for the training, and then we figure out like a 3-month or 6, I don't know what you guys want to do, but does that warrant similar to this case is my question.
Well, whereas we're sending this to administration and curriculum, since that's their purview to do this, it wouldn't be held in this committee. We're sending to them, telling them what we want. We have the expectation that we want the full committee to be informed of what is going on with this. And then certainly if there's are issues or things that need to be further explored, then we can put that as a separate item if we're not satisfied with those results, if that makes sense. But I think our expectation is that we would like an update to the full committee sometime in the fall about the trainings that have occurred and how it's being implemented in schools. Is that something that administration can do or will do? Yes, you're saying yes. All right.
Yes, we absolutely can do that, and we will provide that information.
Yes, thank you. And with those parameters that both Member Mailman and Member Kamara mentioned. Thank you. All right, Dr. Field, could you please call the roll?
Member Kamara,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mailman,
Yes.
and Chair McCullough.
Yes. Anya, thank you so much. That's a wonderful presentation, and I look forward to working with you more, and we can ensure that we follow up with you as well as we do some stuff with OCPL after this. So thank you so much, and thank you for forwarding that presentation over to us. Excellent work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So our first item on the agenda is GB 1-312.4, which is to request that administration explore utilizing virtual tutoring services for the students of the WPS. And this is an item that I filed back in November of 2021. And we have certainly had many updates along the way on how virtual tutoring is going. And we had some other feedback of how in-person tutoring was going to go and start at the secondary levels. Certainly some success stories with some of the pilot programs over time with Catapult and I believe Catapult and Ignite, and just the successes we saw there. So I think at this point we are looking to get an overall update on where we are at. I know the backup does share with us that Worcester Technical High School has begun implementing in-person before school and after school tutoring sessions and virtual tutoring sessions, and just some feedback from administration around where we are at, please.
I can answer that through the chair. So I believe the tech has been very successful. That's part of their before and after school programming. Like you just said, I'm not going to reread the whole thing. They've had between 50 to 60 participants, and our hope is to share this program with all the other secondary schools and to have the secondary schools considering doing the same model when they are rewriting their student growth plans.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
I think, and of course with Catapult at the elementary, it's been very successful also.
Thank you. And my question would be, will Catapult be continuing at the elementary level? So at this point, we have implemented virtual tutoring per the
request.
And
they're actually, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, absolutely. No.
Yes, we are continuing with Catapult, and they're actually going to be in, I think it's 5 of our summer school programs also, and working with a lot of the same children. So yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Member Mailman?
So we like what is happening in tech, we're going to expand that to the other high schools. Is there expansion of the tutoring in any of the elementary schools or a plan to get there?
Yes, so Catapult is offering state-funded math tutoring in grades 4 and 8. And because we've had success with our ELA programming, they have given us 100 spots for next year at no cost.
Member Manley, do you have any? Oh, sorry.
No.
Thank you. Member Kamara?
Thank you. So I just wanted to follow up. So Catapult Elementary School, 100 spots additionally. So that will leave us at what number? 2?
Oh, geez. I don't have my paperwork with me. I think we have maybe 150 spots now for ELA. It's 4 to 1. And they're expanding. They have a grant for math now, and that would be just targeting grades 4 and grade 8.
Okay. So the 150 spot, that's ELA. The 100 additional slot, is that just for any topic or area?
It's for math. It's going to be, the content will be math, and they're targeting grades 4 and grade 8. Where the ELA, the reading, is more targeting grades 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we will just continue with that model.
Mm-hmm. So with regards to so I guess this is how we are expanding, the fact that they're giving us 100 additional, but just for the topic in math.
Yes.
Are we using data
Yes.
to kind of determine where these 100 spots Okay.
Yes, we absolutely will. We'll look at MCAS and STAR data.
And so then if we do that, that means that maybe other schools where the data lacks, where students aren't doing so well, will also be inclusive of that 100 spots. Yep. Okay. Perfect. Great. Because I do think this is very important for the elementary levels. So that's very, 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 very important to build skills. But then also, I'm interested in the high school version. So it seems like this is, because when I hear secondary, I kind of want to clump middle school. Yeah. But so this is only for high school. And I appreciate the opportunity to have, that we're piloting what has gone on at Worcester Tech. And I love the model of before and after this, wonderful there.
And that's something we can expand. We're hoping to expand that to some of the other high schools. Okay.
So I appreciate that. I think that's very exciting because I was privy to some information, in my previous work where when schools implemented things before schools, whether it was reading or so, the scores of students significantly improved for standardized testing. So I was just really happy to hear before and after for this tutoring session. All right, great. So will we have like a, because I remember also Dr. Sipple, I don't know if we talked about having a plan. So what would the plan be? I think that was one of my questions prior to, in our last discussion, what that plan looks like with regards to expanding to the rest of the high schools. If we can kind of have some, even like the bullet points, just to kind of have some rough visual.
Sure, I can ask him for that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, wonderful. So then the initial intent certainly was the request that the administration explore utilizing virtual tutoring services for the students of the WPS. And obviously that it was important that it spread then to both the virtual and then some of the in-person offerings. So I, at this time, with the original intent of the item, I'm comfortable filing, but with getting a Friday letter type information report with the information that Member Kamara requested. Is that something that would work for you, Member Kamara, if we are making sure we get that information with the plan for what the trying to think of what I'm trying to say, the growth for the high school level, would that be acceptable? All right.
Yeah, I always, whenever I like a topic, I always want to keep it on file. But I understand that for whatever reason, as we do this process, we have to file things. So I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. So then I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Member Kamara?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mailman?
Yes.
And Chair McCullough.
Yes, thank you so much. And I do see we have some new administrators on with us tonight, and I didn't know if you could just take a minute and introduce yourselves and maybe share your roles with us. So I know we have Chris Kersonis on. I don't know, Chris, if you just want to introduce yourself and share your role that you have with WPS now.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Chris Kersonis, and I'm the new Administrative Director of College and Career Readiness, and started back in March.
Wonderful. Welcome. And then Dan St. Louis, a familiar face, just in a new role. If you just want to share a little bit about what you're doing now, that would be wonderful.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Most of you probably know me from my decades at University Park School. I am the 3 months in as the Director of Early College on the Worcester Public Schools side.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome to both of you, and thank you for being on with us tonight. So our next item that we have up, we're going to take 2-248.2 and 2.297 or 2-297.2 together. Those items are to review district policy regarding lunch and recess time at the elementary school level and review across the district, making any adjustments necessary, and to explore the feasibility of extending lunchtime in the Worcester schools by at least 10 minutes. And I know that there is some backup provided tonight, and if administration could speak to this, that would be helpful. I don't know if there are multiple speaking because it's elementary versus secondary, but since they were on a similar topic, if we want to discuss them together.
So through the chair, Ellen Kelly is on to speak to the elementary lunches, and Will Foley will speak to the secondary lunches.
I'll go first. Is that okay, Will? So in terms of elementary, we did, after reviewing last time's schedule, there were some different schools that had shorter and longer. So we did communicate with principals that we would like them to extend it to 20-minute lunch. But next year, moving forward, that will be like part of their scheduling. When they pass in schedules, we will be expecting to see at least 20-minute lunch periods. But lunch, just for anybody's information, they have to do a 30-minute. That was a school committee decision for recess, but there isn't, the DESE does not provide guidance on time limits for lunchtime, but it's going to be our request to do 20 minutes.
And at
Thank
the
you.
secondary level.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I was just going to say, Mr. Foley, please go right ahead.
Oh, through the chair, at the secondary level, I provided examples of a high school schedule, which is the 3-wave lunch schedule, and a middle school schedule, which is the 4-wave lunch schedule. Although some high schools, because of their size and space limitations, do run a 4-wave lunch schedule. What you can see that is that it's really tightly packed. To add 10 minutes to the lunch waves, that means those 10 minutes would have to come out of class periods. So if you're running 3 waves of lunch and you want to add 10 minutes to each wave of lunch, that's 30 minutes. There are only 6 other class periods that you could pull from. So you'd have to pull 5 minutes out of each of those class periods, shortening the class period significantly. There's not, the time in the day doesn't exist, but also in terms of lunch, there's also, kids get to lunch before the lunch wave actually begins, because there's that 4 to 5 minute passing time. So students have the time at the beginning of lunch, which is considered as a part of the passing time, which they're, if depending upon how close they are to the cafeteria, they get there. I can assure you that kids get to lunch pretty quickly. Having done lunch duty literally thousands and thousands of times, kids have plenty of time to eat and relax.
Thank you. So my first clarifying question, Ellen, for elementary school moving forward is going to be 20 minutes built into the schedule for lunch beginning next year. And we will continue to keep what is supposed to be the expectation of the 30-minute total recess for the whole day.
Yes.
That's correct. All right. And that is a Worcester policy that the school committee had voted on. So I'm glad that we're not changing that, but that we're able to work out the lunch part. And then, thank you very much. Yep. And then sorry. Did you? All right.
Nope.
And then Mr. Foley, I certainly understand that, we see, and when we're visiting our schools, how, hectic and busy the school schedules are and the school days are. I think one of the questions that came up before is that just that we continue to really, keep in mind when we're looking at things at the high school level with some of these really large buildings that we have now or are about to have, that there is that sufficient time for the students to get to the lunchroom so that they are there in plenty of time to actually have sufficient time to eat. I don't know, someday down the road, maybe in the future, there'll be longer school days, but that's a decision above my head at this time, at least for now. But, looking at that certainly is something to always keep in mind, but we know that we have requirements around the time on learning. So I just want to make sure that we are keeping in mind getting students the ample opportunity to get to the lunchrooms in order to have sufficient time to eat and have a little bit of a break in the middle of the day. So those are my comments on that. And I'll open it up to member Mailman.
Thank you. So by reading all the responses, it sounds to me like the conclusion is there's probably a couple schools we can do better at in our elementary time frame, but otherwise we're doing the best we can. Is that kind of the deal?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the secondary,
So
I don't see.
we are making some changes in a couple of elementaries that weren't at the 20 minutes.
Yes.
And the high schools are where it's at, and that's as good as we can get.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Kamara?
Correct. Yeah. So that was a great kind of like clarifications there. There are some schools that will need to catch up for the elementary levels. And then from what I realized with the high school levels, we're not making any changes, correct?
The time just doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think that's what I also heard from the principals. Okay, great. Yeah, that's all. I think that's.
Thank you.
Huh?
Thank you.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think like for the elementary level, it makes, I think, not that as you grow, you don't need time to play, but I think a lot of the research, shows that play, little kids, especially in the elementary level, need and require play. So I think we're all in line with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. I know that this was looked into and explored, and that we do have some, progress going with the elementary school, and that we'll continue to work to make sure that kids have plenty of time at the middle and high school level to get to the cafeteria on time. So then the recommendation will be to file those two items. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Member Kamara,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mailman,
Yes.
and Chair McCullough.
Yes. The next item that we have on the agenda is GB 2-56.5 to request that the administration provide an update on the library programs and the use of the librarians throughout the district. We had previous presentations in the subcommittee and comments from the public regarding library usage and how we could explore to expand this if at all possible, and if we would be bringing back librarians at the elementary level and topics surrounding that nature. So I just wanted to open this back up to administration for a more recent update.
Hi, so through the chair, we've talked an awful lot in TLSS regarding libraries, and what continues to be our challenge is space. However, we do continue to want to provide a positive library experience for our students. So I've worked with Dr. Garnias and Colleen Kelly to create some additional ideas about ways we can be better partners with Worcester Public Library and encourage the use of Libby and Lily, who have delivered thousands of books to our kids this year. So we're very grateful to the Worcester Public Library. In addition, the schools that can operate libraries with parent volunteers, they are encouraged to do so if the schedule permits and the space permits. And also it would need to be in combination with the administration. So overall, the library space continues to be the major challenge to providing a library in every single elementary school.
Thank you. Member Mailman?
I think it sounds like a similar conclusion to the lunch. Doing the best we can. We're focused on it, but we probably aren't going to get a lot more. Besides what we do maybe with the Worcester Public Library, we'll be limited with what we're going to be able to expand. Is that about right?
Through the chairs, Member Mailman, that's exactly right. We are doing the best we can. And we do appreciate the sentiment and the urgency around libraries and books and literacy. So hopefully that some of the newer ideas we come up with will help mitigate and create a better understanding for how we can get books into the hands of our kids.
Yep. Any improvement with the more expansion for the Worcester public library is great. So I'm sure we'll have an item on it next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Mailman. Member Kamara?
We're on a file meeting today.
Well, maybe not all of them, but.
Okay, we'll see.
Thank you to the chair. So I think a short-term plan is certainly worthy. And I like the fact that we're thinking about that we're better partners with WPS, expansion of Liddy and Libby, using parent volunteers and schedule with schools. I just kind of wrote my own little bullet points. Yeah, her schedules and space and the work, and that those schools have to work with administration. So I think because we're done now with this academic year, we're starting school year 23-24. So we're going to take this from now until then to kind of expand and talk more about this and have a plan in terms of what it means to be better partners, and then we'll come with sort of execute all that in the next school year. So that is great. The thing that I think I'm not going to give up on is addressing long-term needs, because was this the same item where we talked about partnering with community partners, community members, Molly?
Member Kamara, I'm not sure if I know that off the top of my head. I know this was specific to the update on library programs and the use of librarians throughout the district. Just looking if I can see that here.
Because I know that there was another item where we talked about it, like having an update like later on, which sounds similar.
You're not incorrect on that, Member Kamara. This item was sent back out of the full school committee meeting because all of the members, pardon my use of the word all, many of the members wanted us to file this item completely at that meeting, and I motioned that we just come back one more time to TLSS just to get the final update before filing the item for the full committee.
Okay, so thank you for that, because that kind of is,
yes. Thank you. I had to think for a second myself there.
Yeah. So I still am interested in long-term approaches, because if this was something that happened, let's say in the last 5 years, that we've been talking about this in the last 5 years, or maybe last year, I'll be fine. But from what I've heard from the folks that came earlier on when we had this item in the first place, to talk about this has been something that has been prolonging since Lord knows, because I'm 30 now and I heard 30 years. So that's a problem for me. For us to continue to not find manageable ways for us to do something. So I appreciate the short-term update, but I'm also interested in conversations with the partners that we mentioned, and the Worcester Public Library was one of them, but we also mentioned other academic partners in the city of Worcester that we can engage in this topic. So I'm interested to understand what those conversations are and what those plans are. So if it means me working offline with whoever it is, I think that's what I want to pursue, because I need to have something concrete.
No, absolutely. And I think that's certainly, I don't want to speak for Dr. Morse or Ms. Kelly, but if that's something that we can continue to work on, look a long range plan, but that way Member Kamara can get some more information on that, and certainly the rest of us as the full committee. All right, so that recommendation then is to file item GB 2-56.5. And clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Member Kamara?
Sure, yeah.
Vice Chair Mailman?
Yeah.
Vice Chair Mailman?
Yes.
Sorry.
Chair McCullough?
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, so then the next item is GB 2-94.2, which is to request that the administration provide an update on the Worcester Public Schools opt-in and opt-out options regarding the sex education curriculum and provide the full scope of the program per grade level and information regarding the hiring of staff. And I do know in our backup here tonight, I think we are missing one section of prior meeting notes. So I had asked that administration could speak to those questions that had been at our October meeting as well. So if administration, whoever is speaking on this, could share the feedback that's not only in our backup, but I believe some pertinent questions that members Kamara, Mailman, and myself had in the October meeting.
Thank you, Chair McCullough. So we have shared with you some feedback from the survey that we gave to both students and caregivers in the fall. And we have separated those comments into areas of strength and areas of growth as we move forward. So those comments have been shared with you. We are continuing to move forward with our approved sexual health curriculum. That is our part of our full comprehensive health curriculum. And that information is still available to parents on the website. And all of the translations are also available there. All of the caregiver letters are also available there as well. We do not plan on any changes for the next school year. We are going to continue with the same approved curriculum. And we have heard the request that for additional caregiver sessions at the start of the school year. So we are making the appropriate plans to make that available to all families. So those will be those same virtual sessions that will be available in the fall for an overview for any new parents to the district, parents that might have students in different grade levels, and anyone that has any additional questions. Those forms will continue to go out to families in the fall as an opt-out. And that is the updated information that we have for today's meeting and that we also shared in the backup.
Thank you. So I do appreciate the feedback captured from the surveys. I found it very insightful and interesting, some of the responses that were given. I saw one of the comments was from a caregiver who, while they opted out, it wasn't because they opted out due to not wanting their child to take the class. It was concern about not being able to take other classes that they need to take. And I don't know if the administration can comment on ways that we're looking at those opportunities. Again, I know this goes back to a scheduling issue, what's available and what students need to be taking as part of their other curriculum, but to ensure that we're trying to get access to the comprehensive health program to our students.
And we will continue to work with our principals to make that course available to everyone. That may have been a caregiver from the middle school. And so we can continue to work with those principals to make sure that we offer that course to all of our students.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that students are having the opportunity to take it if their families are so choosing. And just to clarify, you did say that the letters that will be going out will be specifically opt-out letters, correct?
Yes, they will.
Thank you. Thank you. And then one of the things that was on, I don't know, and Dr. Gagnias, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. It wasn't, again, there was a little, just a missing chunk. So I don't want to hold you to it. But if this isn't something we can get today, we can hold this for another meeting. Member Mailman had requested that there would be a number of the sex ed curriculum instructors by grade. And I'm not sure if that's something that we know currently, if that could be shared.
We do, and I do believe that we shared that, and I just pulled those numbers and I can read them to you. So in K through 3, we have two teachers. One is out on a leave, so we currently have 1. 4 through 6, we have 7. 7 through 8, we have 3, and 9 through 12, we have 11. And we have one other educator in an alternative program that is also a health educator.
Thank you. And do you find that those numbers are sufficient to meet the current needs of the district at this time, or is there exploration at increasing those numbers, or right now we feel that we're meeting our needs?
At this time, we're meeting our needs. Yes, we are able to cover all of our classes, and we are actually in the process of currently scheduling now, and we believe that all the needs are being met.
Okay, thank you. And the additional ask that had been mentioned was, continuing to do things at the open houses and know your school nights where there is a table set up, and that maybe some training sessions or Q&A sessions are available for parents in the fall so that they can make an educated decision.
Yes, and we did connect with all of our health educators, and we did ask them that they do attend those evenings at the school buildings that they were teaching at. And as far as we know, all of the schools did have someone available at the Know Your School nights for parents to get additional information. So we will continue to work on that, and we will continue to support the teachers to be at those open house nights, and to continue to communicate with our principals to share out that information as well to families as needed.
Okay, thank you. I think that is all that I have for questions currently. I do appreciate the data backup with the opt-outs, and just that I'm probably going to make a recommendation to hold this just so we can get an update on where we are with the numbers in the fall, but I certainly want to open it up to Member Mailman and then Member Kamara for any questions or motions they may have around it. Member Mailman?
Thank you, Chair McCullough. I would like to definitely keep this open, and I think that it would be useful for us also by school over time to see where our numbers are going. So, and have that report in writing about the number of teachers that we have versus the number of students. So I'd request that in a motion that we have twice a year, updates by school over time. So we're looking at, whatever school, 2022, 23, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes, we can provide that report.
And the number of instructors, like by grade, like in writing, so that would be part of a normal reporting that we would just get twice a year.
All right. Member Kamara?
Thank you. And I want to second that motion. I think that's a great visual here because, yes, schools, number of educators, right? No, schools, students, number of educators, yeah, you got it. So I'm excited to hear or to see all of this report here, and that we have a family and community engagement, team going on. I'm interested, changes. I'm glad there's no changes. Of course, we're having the same curriculum, and so I'm interested to understand how are we utilizing the parent and community engagement team to have a training with, or not a training, or like an overview of this program to students. So how are we utilizing our community engagement, family and community engagement team?
Member Kamara, I think that we will continue to work with them. They are, as you said, they're new to the district team, and we are sharing the information and sharing with them how parents can get the information so that if questions come to them, they're able to guide them to the appropriate resources. We will continue to work with them in the fall as we have the family evenings for information. We'll continue to partner with them and get that information to them as well so that they are able to be a resource to parents also.
Thank you. Because I understand we have to put things on our Worcester Public Schools website. That's great. But to my recollection, I don't know how many, people, how many parents that really need the support and need to understand some of the clarity around this actually do go on our Worcester Public Schools library, even let alone families in general. So in fact, that's a different topic with regards to usage of our website and why and how they're using it, which that's an item, which I'm curious about. And then, because this is a topic that over the years, have gotten quite a buzz about it. And every now and then we're seeing, folks, not, opting out, which every parent has the right to do, but sometimes from what I hear in the community, there's still lack of understanding with regards to what's going on, and perhaps also maybe I'm not in the classrooms. I don't know who's saying what. I don't know, but I have heard some parents even, being concerned about what teachers are projecting to students within these, classes. That has been pretty wild, and I'm not talking about the whatever else we're hearing. I'm talking about practicality of certain things. So I want to make a motion or to share, like, I would like for there to be more targeted. I don't know if we keep data with regards to demographics to understand people who are, opting out, and so demographic, if they're opting out, if we can have some kind of public health speculation why they are, and are we targeting those, communities who's opted out, to provide more training for them around this, or overview around this program, because I really would appreciate more targeted approach to this when in the next school year, rather than passive, putting things on virtual, which is great, and we should keep the virtual. But I'm also asking that we do something, in person, and we, make this public everywhere on our website, on, in the media, and just use other ways that we can get, folks who are diverse and maybe have multiple languages aware that such is going to be happening on a caregiver session with regards to sex ed, because I think I would like to see that approach.
Just to clarify, so that I heard what you were sharing about sharing this information on multiple languages. The virtual session, we have all the various interpreters that are able to interpret in the specific languages. So that's the virtual option. And then the in-person option is at the school level with the health teacher that is at the Know Your School night. And if additional meetings are required, the teachers can do that at the school level as well. And we suggest that at the school level, because those are the people that, the school is the place where the students attend, and then families can feel comfortable going into their school and asking any questions. So we're doing, virtual and in-person approach.
Okay, so
all of the interpreters are always included when we do those virtual evenings, so that can be in the target language that the parents and families and caregivers need.
So, Member Carr, would you want your motion to be to continue to offer both the virtual and in-person Q&A sessions for caregivers and families for the comprehensive health curriculum?
Yes, but I think what I was also talking, because I do know we have, translators in their different languages online and perhaps in person. But what I was talking about is more like the marketing of what we're saying that we're doing here. So I'm interested to know, like, if we are also having, like, for example, we're having a caregiver session at this time within a specific school in our public schools, how are we getting that message out to parents? That's what I'm asking about with regards to that point. And I do appreciate the school-based approach. So, and then secondly, with the school-based approach, it seems like once the parents go to Know Your School night, they'll be pulled into maybe a room with the health teacher, where the health teacher will walk people through all these variations of our curriculum. Is that the visual that I'm planting in my mind?
Yes, so the information would go out to parents and families through their schools for their Know Your School night, and that it would be widespread information through phone calls, through letters home, and that information would be shared on Know Your School night, all of those specific ways. And schools, often send text messages. Different schools communicate in various ways. But yes, that information would go out widespread to families.
Right, thank you. So I would like the item that was clarified earlier as a motion. And then if you guys can also I'm interested in the various ways that I know each school have their own different ways. I get that, but I'm interested, we need to kind of find like some unified way that works to reaching all families in the district, especially families that don't engage so much. So I'm interested in that kind of, direct from, approach maybe a particular school or a few schools are already doing this, and we can amplify what they're doing across, not just for this, I'm speaking for this topic in general, but I would like to understand, what folks are doing across the district, because I do know, different schools have different ways of doing things, and it's incredible. And sometimes it just makes me wonder.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have Member Kamara has the motion about continuing to hold the virtual and in-person Q&A sessions, ensuring that communications are going home to families in a variety of ways to make them aware of the situation. Another motion from Member Kamara to review what different schools are doing as far as their communications and see where there are strengths and opportunities to ensure that families are being connected with appropriately based on their needs. It sounded like to Member Kamara earlier, you may, and I could be making this into my own motion, but it would be something I would support as well if it was what you intended, to look at working with our community and family engagement personnel to further support the messaging around this. So I don't know if you actually had said that, but I took it. So I'm going to say that you did, because I think it's a good one. And then Member Mailman had her motion is that we continue to receive biannual updates regarding the opt-outs, where we're at with staffing, and making sure that that's, in a written backup at those times that we can work with administration, what those two time points should be, whether it should be like December and June of, the next year for those updates, and continuing to ensure, my motion would be to continue to ensure appropriate training of all health staff as we move forward, because I know obviously there can be ebbs and flows of adjustments with personnel. And I just want to make sure that, this is, as we all know, for everyone on this call knows how this is such a long time coming and so much work went into this. And I want to continue to ensure that we're doing it the right way. And I think, we've seen the opt-out numbers. Some of them are still pretty high. And I do agree that I think it is just more of a matter of misunderstanding in some arenas and just continuing our efforts around that. So I think I got every motion. So Member Mailman, did I miss anything?
A clarifying question, sorry.
No, that's
with the interpreters. That is only, do we have interpreters available at the Know Your School nights at all?
I believe that varies by school.
Okay. I would think it with a topic like this, if parents are at school, it would be great to have interpreters available at the school to talk about this topic and I recognize there's probably 40 people not available to go to each of them. But I think to Member Kamara's point, like, how are we, I'd rather have a conversation with I think if I was a parent, right, of that age children, I'd rather have an individual conversation versus a Zoom conversation with, 10 people talking about my concerns about this subject potentially.
So then we can,
that is understood. And I do think, as you mentioned, with all of the 50 locations of our schools, I think that we can ask schools to choose their high occurrence languages and possibly have those interpreters there. If they're not there, we can also, some other options that we've used in the past are using the interpreter language line. So we do have some options for families that are going in the in-person meetings as well.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Yes, Molly, that item you had it about, let's over time look at what's happening per school, increases and decreases in opt-out, and then how many teachers we have per category.
Absolutely. And I'll have one final ask before I ask the clerk to call the roll. And I don't know that I said it already, but I meant to ask earlier that in addition, next to the number of the students, that the opt-outs may be the percentage figure as well for what the total percentage is at that school, so we can see if it's a extraordinarily high rate or not. That would be wonderful. So then I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please. So this is to hold until, would December work so that we can get an accurate opt-out, or should it be sooner, Dr. Ganyas?
think December will be fine, and we can continue with that schedule of December and June if that works for.
I think that would give us some accurate data, and then that way too, you can give us feedback at that December meeting about how the Know Your School nights went, where we saw what worked, what didn't work, and to member Kamara and member Mailman's points, how we can continue to improve upon that. That would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Dr. Field, could you call the roll, please?
Member Kamara,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mailman,
Yes.
and Chair McCullough.
Yes. All right, that brings us to our final item of the evening, which is GB 2-218.5, to accept the Early College Full School and Expansion Year 2 Fund Code 175 grant from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education continuation administered by the Office of Early College in the amount of $500,000. And this item was from August of 2022. And we did approve the grant, but we did have questions over time regarding the early college program and just where we were at as far as the district was going with that and how things looked. And I know we received backup tonight that had a lot of the data that we had been asking for and credits and what students were receiving. And I'll open it up to administration since we have two of our newer experts on the topic on the call, if you would like to share any information with us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Through the chair, we seem to be two different sort of issues within this item. The 175 is specifically a wall-to-wall grant for Claremont Academy becoming a full early college high school. And you see all the work that they've done identifying pathways and specific courses taken within each school year, with the goal of achieving up to students having the opportunity to achieve up to 30 credits by the time they graduate from high school. And then further, there is data on all students who have taken early college classes this year, the schools that they're at, and the number of credits, as well as graduating seniors and how many credits that those students who are graduating out this year have achieved within their time in the program. So that's what you've got there, and I'm obviously open to any questions that you might have.
Thank you. And I do appreciate the backup. And I know that this has been a hot topic and something we're all interested in. And I guess my questions right now would simply be, do we feel that where we're at with the number of students that are participating is a good place to be at? Are we looking to try to get more students involved? Just where we think we are as far as the program goes and where we envision it going.
Yeah, so the Claremont one, specifically FC 175, is a new deal, and they are embarking on their own journey, which is really going to kick off in the fall. They are, and some of this money, in fact, is paying for summer programming. They have last summer rather, they had a 2-week summer program. This year it's going to be almost a 3.5-week summer program on 3 different campuses at Claremont Academy. And again, that's specifically in reference to FC 175, which was part of the item here. And then the city as a whole, it is expanding. And we are looking to expand even further. You know, obviously my role and Chris's role are brand new because the program is growing, which is exciting, and it's gone beyond what the folks kind of just at the school level could just kind of do sort of on their own. So yes, I'm happy, and obviously I've only been here 3 months in this capacity, but I'm happy with where it is right now. And yes, we're 100% looking to grow it. You know, I don't want to throw up ridiculous numbers. Sometimes I get away from myself a little bit, but yes, I'm happy with where it is, and we're looking to grow it substantially going forward. And this snapshot right here is where we're currently at.
Chair McCullough, also, what we're looking at too is quality control, right? So we have a lot of students that will take classes, and this is to help our underrepresented students have an idea what college is like, be prepared when they walk in for those classes. And I think through this data analysis, which I think we're really digging into, is seeing what students were successful and why, how many came back and took classes, multiple classes, earned credits. And then more importantly, if they dropped a class or didn't pass a class, what was that reason? So I think we're trying to find that out where you may not see the credits here that they earned, but we had a lot more kids taking classes. So were those students, was it a language issue coming from whatever school they were from? We have students at, all of our high schools taking classes. So I think we also want to look at that number two, how we can improve students being successful with those classes, especially in 11th and 12th grade. So there's quality control to it, and that they're passing these classes, earning credits for those classes, and then coming back because they've learned how to be successful with the expectation of what happens in a college. And we do offer some of these classes in our high schools. Our ultimate goal is to get the kids on the campuses also, so they can see what it actually takes and what that process is to actually attend a college class.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I really do appreciate that, because I think, it's a topic that comes up often with some of these types of programs, that it's not just quantity, it's the quality, and taking a look at what is working, what isn't working, and how we can better support the students that maybe if, like you said, they didn't obtain or earn the credits, right? What was the reason, and are there things that we can do on our end that help them get to that point? So I do appreciate this, and I will pass it over to Member Mailman and then Member Kamara.
I thank you for the reports. And I don't think this is an item we should file. I think there's a lot to continue to look at with early college. To your point, Molly, the last time about percentages, I was a little bit struck by South, and I was thinking the graduating class, and I was curious, Tech, Burncoat, Doherty, or Tech and Burncoat, even North is proximity to Quincy is pretty good, and Quincy is our primary provider for a lot of this classwork. So I was curious if geography made a difference, and then I don't know if is there further data that shows what kids we're reaching? Are we reaching first generation college students? I think when the program came online, I knew several students that were taking classes, and they weren't necessarily first generation. And I know that's the goal. So how do we either file another item, really dig in on that data, or get that data out of what we have here, if anybody's got a thought?
Yeah, I mean, I would only speak from my previous experience at University Park is for our admittedly small district-wide numbers, our students are nearly 100% first generation college students. And I've had the opportunity in my last, few months getting around where that does seem to be the case, and kids are really thrilled to have the opportunity. But certainly we can dig into further demographics.
Yeah, I think we need to. I mean, hopefully the state's asking us for that anyways, so that they make sure they're holding us. I mean, I think Worcester's gotten a larger investment than some other cities and towns, and I think I feel it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're actually hitting those kids. And University Park is like an exception to me about that. Yes, they were all doing it in the but who are we hitting in some other schools as well would be, I think, something we should be paying attention to. Or maybe, again, if it's something you already put together for the state, then that's great. Let's look at that data.
Member Kamara?
Thank you. Thank you to the chair. So, so one thing for me, I would like to understand the numbers here. So are we saying from the chart that there's two different charts? Okay, so are we saying that the graduating class of 2023, are we saying that all the numbers in here are within the earned in SY23?
No. So the for the students graduating this year, We pulled out that data specifically to show how many courses the students had earned in the course of their high school years. As you mentioned, there are two different charts. One is simply just this year's data as it is, regardless of student graduating year. And then the second chart is graduating seniors, specifically to kind of show how many college credits they'd earned by the time they graduated as graduating seniors.
Okay, so the first one is a full picture, and the other one is a snapshot of one data point in time, seniors.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because the reason why is that I didn't want to calculate numbers to make it seem that we're doing it's more, but just to. Okay. So then, interesting numbers. But then I'm also interested in barriers, a lot of barriers. Right. So I think Chris mentioned something about looking at, why things have not worked. We've talked about this particular topic, I think, in the past, and I have to go back to my notes to realize what it is we talked about. But I remember talking about barriers because I've heard some things about barriers, and I think Noman mentioned that one of it was geographical locations, transportation, but barriers. The other thing that I was to my knowledge or to our knowledge is that we were going to do something such as, because when I think about this program, I think about it in two compartments. One is just early college at Claremont. The other is citywide early college program. So early college citywide. So what I'm going to talk about will kind of merge both, but then sometimes I will make a variation of what I'm referring to. So for the early college citywide program, I think it came to our knowledge that sometimes there may be some education within the student body, especially for those that take like AP classes. I'm trying to remember what it is we talked about in my notes here. AP classes, honor classes, and college courses. From our previous conversation, it may seem that there is an abundance of like all these wonderful programs, and that could also be a barrier in terms of why students may or may not be participating. So I remember us talking about perhaps there's a way that we can work with the guidance counselors, if this is not already happening, to really, integrate students into, like this opportunity for college taking college courses, but then also looking at their need for what they want to do, like AP or or honors courses or something like that within their specific schools, because it seems that there is a bit of things are not clearly being articulated in that nature. And I'm also interested in a training or some kind of overview. I don't know what it looks like. I'm interested in that topic for the grades that we've mentioned here, 9th grade. I think that's our incoming students, 9th grade, and that's to go up 10th, 11th. I think students need to be captured with regards to what we're saying, because I've had the privilege to talk to some graduating seniors, and when I sit with them and ask them some questions, it really bothers me to see variations when it comes to college and career readiness. This is a topic that is very interesting to me and my other members here. So some of them have not talked to guidance counselors. Some of them have not talked to, there's just some things that are just very bleak, and it's troubling. So I would appreciate, I think this is the department, early college, department and career readiness. I would like for there to be some kind of formality. And so this can be a motion, but I would like there to be some kind of formality, whether it's training, I don't know what it looks like, but you guys can help me here, where we're meeting incoming students and their parents and letting them know what we have, because we have some incredible things that we are not so much visible about. And here are the options. I don't care that you're making a CDF. I don't care about that. We need to get this information out to every student, regardless of grades and whatever. I don't care about all that stuff. I care about getting the information out to all students, and multiple times in different ways across all our high schools, since this is citywide. So that's one. I know that there's a lot of things on the guidance counselor's plate. Sometimes like it's hectic. I'm also aware that some guidance counselors do go into the classrooms. I'm aware of all of that. But I do think like we need other ways. I don't know whether it's bringing all the students together at one time in those big fancy what you call it, theater places that we have in our schools or whatever it looks like. But if we were to do a data point and ask students, have you been taught, have you been spoken to multiple times on college readiness and all this stuff by this and this person, it should be a high number of that. So that's kind of what I want to see with this department here. And then the barriers, to look at the barriers for this program, this college program specifically, and then to figure out strategies of how we're going to overcome these barriers. Because in the next year, I would love to see more first generation students be a part of this program. This is a game changer for most students. And so I would love for us to do that. I'm going to stop here. Because Claremont, I think Claremont, there's some really structural things going on at Claremont. There are some real structural things. I don't know fully what that looked like, but I do know maybe they're already doing this. They're probably meeting their 9th graders and they're having this path where they're educating them on all this great stuff and the families too, so that as they walk on from 9 to 10 to 11, they have this, they're doing this overview, and that the students who are participating in Claremont, they have this clear pathway and there's visual for them and their parents. It seems like from the conversations I've had and from when I read, the combine to show a clear picture for me, but I don't see that same clear picture across our district. So, thank you.
So then I would take member Mailman's motion, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So to get an update in December on demographics and enrollment, and an update in June on the overall report of the year for the early college. And then member Kamara, it kind of ties in with that as well. But maybe that what we can get in December is an update. When we get the update, is to get an update on what information sharing sessions and recruitment tools have been utilized for our students. And then in June to get an overall update on the successes and challenges of the program, including how those recruitment options and information sharing sessions tied into the overall success for the year. Does that sound like I've captured everything from both of you? Remember Mailman?
Because I know sometimes we talk generically, right? But then maybe the bullet points of the processes will include guidance counselors and all this stuff.
Exactly.
Great. Okay.
And that's what we would look for, that information to get back. And now that we have our wonderful new team here with Mr. Crusonis and Mr. St. Louis, I think that would be information that we would be able to get back for an update in December, and then an overall update for the year in June to see where we're at with the program. Member Mailman, did I capture your questions?
I think you did, Molly, and I just throw one other thought out for the team to think about is, everything we're measuring, and I apologize because I just got back from the State House about the admissions policy protect. Everything we for equity for vocational education is part of what we should be measuring for these other programs. We should not be creating other, equity guidelines by program. It should be kind of, this is how we're measuring our work in equity across all programs. So I don't have a particular item about that, but I'd like those, how many English language learners, how many special ed, all the things that we need to look at. Are we accomplishing that with this early college program by school and in the district? Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Member Kamara?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mailman?
Yes.
And Chair McCullough?
Yes. And I just like to thank everyone. I appreciate your time tonight, and lots of good discussion and lots of good stuff happening in the schools, and excited to see how we're growing and expanding and where we go from here. So thank you all. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll for an adjournment.
Member Kamara?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mailman?
Yes.
And Chair McCullough?
Yes. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.